Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, and I'm joined once again by my good friend Vubang. What's up, Vubang?
What's up? What's up? I'm excited to talk just Warriors this time. We're doing just Warriors stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. The Warriors, they beat the Kings last night, and that was, I think, their second preseason game, but it was the first one that I was able to watch. And you said you checked it out. What thoughts did you have initially?
Yeah, I mean, preseason games are just impossible for me to watch. I don't know if you even try to watch preseason games. The last one was in Hawaii, which was like extra. Like, I'm pretty sure Steph Curry wanted to play extra minutes just because this is the first. I mean, this is probably the only time locals in the entire state will get to watch him. But yeah, I mean, I was actually paying attention more to the Kings just to see how DeMar DeRozan was going to be doing over there. Yeah, just I just don't know how he's gonna help them. I mean, but maybe I'm just being pessimistic about the Kings, but just having like all of these just jump shots from just all over inside the 3-point, like it was just really frustrating to watch. I mean, they're going in, it's really nice, but I just don't know how he takes them over the top. And I don't know if is there optimism in Sacramento, but it's just very strange.
I have no idea, and it was funny because throughout the game, Doris and whomever else was on the broadcasting team, they were singing praises of DeRozan's mid ranger, and that's great and all. But yeah, I don't necessarily think it helps. It could in crunch time. I mean, maybe that's where they need somebody else besides Fox, besides Sabonis. Somebody just like we're down one, and Fox isn't getting to the bucket, and maybe they have like somebody guarding him. Sabonis is ineffective. Just give the old man the ball and let him shoot a fadeaway or a pull up or something like that. So, I mean, what do they lose for him? Like Harrison Barnes. So,
Not much.
That's it might be a wash at the end of the day, but I'm not sure if they have optimism or whatnot. I will say that they don't scare me anymore. They don't feel like they've taken a leap like any of these other teams. But there's a lot of what ifs, I think, in the West. So it remains to be seen. It could be that the Kings plateaued 2 years ago, but
Exactly,
like literally just because they're still good, but do they have enough to get to the top 2 or 3 of the West, of this West? You know what I mean? At this point, with like some of these younger, improved teams. But how about on the Warriors side? What jumped out at you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was great. I'm just looking at the box score right now. I've been trying to pay attention to Quentin Post just to see because I've been watching a lot of highlights from him.
Yeah.
-6, which I thought would be the lowest, but Steph Curry actually had a -7. So who knows if the plus minus actually helps. But yeah, I mean, just seeing Buddy Hield score 22 looks like, in Melton scoring 16. That was, it's great to see the new guys coming in and doing their part. So I'm pretty sure everything's going to be an experiment with the lineups for a while, frustratingly so. But if my Philly friends are telling me, right, Melton's going to be injured pretty soon, and so
well, we'll get to that later. Yeah, I mean, Melton looked good, and obviously neither he nor Hield are going to shoot like this every night. But if we could get one of them hitting 4 or 5 threes, or 4 or 5 threes combined between them, that's pretty good. Melton definitely made like Moses Moody look expendable, but as you said, how healthy can that dude stay? And also Moody is bigger, but that guy just always gets the short end of the stick, man. All of a sudden, there's basically 3 guys ahead of him now. They got rid of Clay. Poole got jettisoned a year ago, but now they got Podziemski, Buddy Hield, and Melton in front of him at the 2 guard spot, and he's not going to make any further inroads as small forward with Kuminga, Wiggins, and then even Anderson if he plays a little bit smaller.
I think what's also interesting is GP2. Like, he's not really getting any minutes. I don't think he's injured, right? Like, and this is a contract year, so I don't know what's going on there, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there was on our group text, you said something, you posted something about the Warriors not drafting Bronny because out of respect and deference to LeBron's wishes, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But I actually was like, draft him because at the time, because to me, I was like, yeah, he's not ready, but he's basically like Gary Payton the second. He's athletic. He can shoot better. He's not maybe not as explosive, but his whole thing is going to be tough defense. And yes, if Payton is healthy this year, he's more helpful. But I'm like, Payton's not going to be healthy. I don't know.
Just-
Call this like Warriors pessimism, but I just don't believe he's going to be healthy enough
I
throughout the course of the season.
I hope they're just saving his minutes towards the end. But just to clarify, the post I sent was about how the Warriors front office was, having deference to LeBron and letting them letting the Lakers draft him. I think that the Warriors would have wanted to draft him just to get Santa Cruz Warrior tickets sold. Like that was my thing. I was at the Santa Cruz Warriors team store / office, and they just kept on talking about how great Quentin Post was and how they signed him. And I was just like, man, if these guys had Bronny, these guys would be selling like season tickets, in Santa Cruz. But my thing is like, if the Warriors drafted Bronny, I think the Warrior fans would have revolted because the whole thing with him is like he's just not ready to be drafted at all. And the only team that would draft him would be the Lakers. And so they would have revolted just thinking that the Warriors were drafting somebody for non-basketball reasons. And at least with Quentin Post, they can sort of justify the fact that there's a big man that shoots threes, somebody that they has a pretty high ceiling, but very less likelihood of
But then
reaching that high ceiling.
they could have traded for LeBron at the deadline when both teams were floundering at the upcoming deadline.
I just think it's, I mean, this is another rabbit hole. I apologize. But this whole talk about like Steph Curry and LeBron teaming up someday and how like it would obviously be with the Lakers because LeBron is never going to leave the Lakers. I just find that hilarious because how much the Warriors can pay Steph Curry, his legacy and all that. I don't think he's willing to chase a ring to the point to leave the Warriors and his legacy. Like he's literally the only player with his number of years and stature that is still with the same team. Like I think that's a bigger deal than anything.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I think like at this point, Steph is gonna stay. I don't think he's gonna leave just to chase one more. I think his legacy is etched in stone, and both he and Draymond are gonna ride it out as long as they can, as long as the team isn't awful. You know what I mean?
I think there's more chance of him ever leaving to go to the Hornets to win a championship. Like if all
Sure.
things are equal and the Hornets have a championship team and the Lakers have a championship team, helping the Lakers win another championship. I mean, who actually thinks that way? Like, is there any basketball? I'm sure there's a lot,
No.
but I think like they think about moving to LA as a basketball player and living in LA. They don't think about like adding another banner in crypto. Like that's not something kids grew up with unless you grew up in LA. So I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Steph ever going to LA. He doesn't like LA. He didn't premiere his movie in LA, right? Specifically, and luckily the Hornets stink, and even with all their draft picks over the last several years, they have not done well, and they tanked it. What did you think of the big questions on the season so far, or going into the season? How did Kuminga look to you?
I mean, the Kuminga is going to be just kind of strange this year as a contract year. Like he's basically playing to showcase his skills for another team. So his stat line looks great, but I still don't think he plays within the flow of the Warriors as much. He's sort of like he plays like a much bigger superstar, but just can't finish as much as a superstar quite yet. And so I'm just a little afraid of him. Like I feel like we need to rein him back, or definitely rely on him whenever things aren't going well. But who can actually do that, right? Jordan Poole did it for the championship year, but as you can see in Washington, his true self is really coming out. So the question is, what what is Kuminga going to be doing in a contract year?
Yeah, I think he obviously just to rehash for you and all the listeners. Um, After he was drafted, I predicted in 4 years he'd be the Warriors' best player, and it's 4 years. Uh, and I think it's 4 years now, but or maybe it's 3 years based on what I talked about. Anyway, either way, like he's not their best player, but I want to see how he's improved. I think that his rebounding is still a thing. Uh, all the things that people highlighted and staying focused on defense and all that jazz, and also. I mean, hitting the three, but he was 4 of 7. He missed a couple badly. One was just like a thud on the like the rim, like the the jam that meets the piece of metal that meets the rim that joins the rim between the glass. He just like the worst brick, and then another an air ball from the corner. But he hit a few, and I was encouraged by that. And I think once people start coming out to him, it'll open things up a little bit. But it'll be interesting though, because right now it just you just see all these wings on the floor for the Warriors, and even though these vets like Heald and Melton and Anderson, it's like, oh, cool. Like I'm missing that zhuzh factor right now. You know what I mean? Because they're solid, and you know what you get. But like, I'm hoping for that from Kuminga. But it will be interesting, right? Because it's different from the Poole situation, as you referred to, where he didn't get the contract before and he has to play and make good. So it's going to be an interesting contrast. Where is he playing out of? Is he playing for stats? Are there going to be moments where people start calling him out for playing for a contract and all that? So I definitely can see some drama coming as the season goes. But as usual, I'm pulling for the kid.
This year, it's painfully obvious, considering GP2, Kuminga, and Moody are on their contract year. Like if they wanted to keep these guys, they would have figured something out. But their contracts, what they're getting paid, and the positions that they're in, it just makes it seem like they're getting ready for a trade. Like I don't see how this team is going to stay the same now between the end of the year.
I agree. I think that this is just the way that with the new CBA that's been like messing with all these teams with tons of contracts, high end contracts, how it's going to be, right? Like all summer it was, hey, sorry, like Clay, we can't sign you right now because we're trying to chase this other stuff. And then that makes Clay a little butthurt and he leaves. And then in this case, it's like, hey, fact of the matter is we're leaving ourselves some flexibility. So we can trade y'all if y'all play better and prove it, then you'll make more money. And so, I mean, I could totally see that. I don't expect this team to be the same come the day after the trade deadline.
But I do want to mention something real quick about Kuminga's contract. Can I list off all the players from the 2021 draft class that have signed a new extension? Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Suggs, Josh Giddey, Franz Wagner, Davian Mitchell, Zaire Williams, Chris Duarte. Like all of them have signed extensions. Maybe ChatGPT is wrong here because it said Moses Moody has signed too, and Corey Kispert, but it just sounds like a lot of players from the 2021 draft class have been signed already. And it's just painfully obvious that Kuminga has.
I mean, it's crazy because
just want to leave it at that.
The fact is, like, if he was on one of those teams without, an expensive Steph, an expensive Draymond, an expensive Wiggins, then he would probably have already signed, right? Because he's somebody that you want to keep and build around.
Yeah, he'd be selling tons of jerseys in Houston right now.
So predictions, Vubang. I want to ask you, how many games will Draymond Green miss this coming season due to suspension?
Gotcha. So I think I know what you're expecting me to say, like an over under of like 4 or 5. I think last year was 17 or something, right? It was like double digits. I'm gonna say 0 games.
Okay.
I know that's going to be crazy to think about, but like every year we're just like, is Steph going to say something? Is Steph going to finally say something? And I would assume that when Steph signed his $62 million extension to line up with Draymond, he sat down in a room with Draymond, or like maybe sat down with Draymond in his cabana house somewhere in Atherton or whatever, and said, "I'm going to lock up the rest of the second to last contract or whatever second, third last contract. I'm going to line it up with yours, Draymond, so that we can negotiate together. And so I'm doing this knowing that you're basically, I mean, what is it? What Jordan Poole say? Like backpack,
Yeah,
like
expensive
Draymond
backpack.
is Steph's backpack. Like this is basically putting all the chips on the table and saying this is the year, and I'm laying a $62 million bet on this. And so if you even sniff the any of the getting suspended because of a technical, like this is it. This is the final year.
Well, I kind of like that. That's an interesting take. I will say five. I will say five just because,
That's probably more reasonable.
yeah. But I like what you said. I would have hoped that Steph would have said that prior, but we shall see. I did find myself right, like as much as like I detest, I can't listen to Draymond's podcast. I can't watch him on TNT. Like I'm just so fed up with the dude. Yeah, like between the lines, I pulled for the guy when he's in a Warriors uniform. So watching him play against the Kings, like I enjoyed seeing him like do his thing. I love him as a player on the basketball court, and so I want to that's why we watch. He was our lovable underdog, but then just became a blustery front runner. So I say five, just because, like I think this season's going to be rough. There's going to be some moments, and he's going to just get you know suspended at some point. Um, it might be closer to three, but who knows? Anyway, okay. How many games? How many points did Steph average this season? Last year, I believe it was like 26 something.
26, yeah. 26 and was like ninth overall. I mean, if we're talking about averages, I'm just going to guess more because he played a lot of games last year. I think it was like 74 or 76 games. I'm going to guess he plays less games and is a little fresher and will average more, but play less game and have less points overall and less games overall.
Give me a number.
26.9. I'm not going to go crazy. This is not, I don't think he has anything to prove anymore.
26 points. Okay. It's interesting to me because, right, like we talk about how he doesn't have that number two guy. And so there's going to be all this pressure on him. I do think Hield will be a bit of a release valve when he's on, and hopefully some of the other shooters. But it's funny, right? Because like he's older, Steph is, and he's tired, and he carried them so long until he just got too tired at the end. But it's like, is it going to be him trying to get more shots off, or is it going to be other teams focusing on him and taking away more from him? So I'm going to say he's going to average less. I'm going to say he's going to average like 25 or something like that.
I don't think he's getting into the Ray Allen years.
No, I don't think it's that at all either. I just think it's like, I actually think like other guys on this team are going to take some pressure off of him. And we saw like Steph get tired last season. So, definitely not in the Ray Allen years, but, and I don't think he's going to have to like jack up shots all season long just because there's no one else doing it. You know what I mean? So, at least I hope that, Kuminga can, raise his game, and that Hield can shoot like high 30s, 39% or something from three all season long, and that Melton doesn't get hurt for more than whatever. But and that Pajemski, you know what I mean? I hope that other guys like show up, and I hope like Wiggins can contribute. But then again, we'll see who's here after the trade deadline. Another Steph question: how many games do you think Steph will miss due to injury?
Oh God, I'm not answering that question, dude. This is a terrible question. You shouldn't even be asking about that.
I know it's kind of like you're just speaking it into existence. You're tempting the universe.
I
Okay,
mean, do you really want to start? Do you really want to end up? I mean, if we answer that question, then in like 5 months, this is going to be a lottery podcast again.
I'll say I'll answer it. I'll say 12. 12 games. And then you, by default, not applicable, 0 games.
No, I'm definitely an NA, not a 0.
Okay. What will Jonathan Kuminga's 3-point percentage be by the end of the season?
What is it right now? Like 36 or something?
Last season, I think it was low. It was like 33. But
whatever it is, I'm going to say it's lower because I think his attempts are going to go up. I mean, 7 attempts this preseason game is kind of crazy, right?
Well, not if Kerr wants to get 53s up a game these days. But just to throw out a percentage, like when he was good towards the end of his second season, he shot like 37% for a big stretch. So
I'll say 34.
34%. I will say 38.
It's kind of hard to like have. I don't know if Kerr is like going to Kuminga and saying you need to put up as many threes as you can, considering was it Pods and Heald are at 39% and what's Melton at like 30, 36, 37%. It just seems weird if he's suddenly telling that specifically to Kuminga. I can imagine him saying to everybody, but to Kuminga would be kind of weird.
Yeah, but that just means Kuminga takes fewer threes on average, and that means maybe his percentage is better. I think what Kuminga's good at is like when he's open, he shoots the three. What he needs to get better at is like the quick trigger, catch and shoot, and because his shot is a little slow once he raises the ball up, but that's when he rushes, and that's when he like airs it out or he clanks it. So
I guess that's what happens if you have the ability to take 2 steps and end up dunking it from the 3-point line. If you're just like, should I shoot this 3, or for a fraction of a second should I consider taking the straight?
Yeah. How many games will how many games until Melton goes down with an injury?
Man, what is wrong with you? I'm not answering this question.
I don't know. This is based on what.
Okay, fine. Let's just say I'll answer that question. Right, game 3 of the Western Conference Finals. There you go. If that's what you want.
Okay. I'll say 20 games.
20 games in.
20 games in. Yeah. All right. So next one is. Which of the 3 vets, Melton, Anderson, or Heald, will end up being the most valuable to the team by at the end of the day?
This is a great question. Yeah, so I assume Melton's going to be injured at some point. He'll come back in the playoffs and just obviously help us win the championship. I think Kyle Anderson is. I think we still think of Spurs Kyle Anderson and not necessarily Timberwolves Kyle Anderson. Like we've been chasing Kyle Anderson for a decade now, right? So finally got him, but I don't think he's the same player. So I really do think by default it's going to be Buddy Hield. He has an obvious role to play with Clay leaving, and I think we'll be pleasantly surprised about how much of a offensive Clay that he can cover. So I think it's going to be Buddy Hield.
I would have to say, I mean, I definitely don't think it's going to be Anderson either. I think Hield definitely feels like the scoring need, and I think you're right. I think it'll be surprising how good. I mean, he's like almost like the perfect guy. You're kind of curious about, like, you put him in Steph's orbit, and what does that do for him? Even though they didn't really play many minutes together in that second preseason game, but that's kind of what I'd be curious to see. But Melton, if he can stay healthy, just like the 2-way nature of it, and if he can solve problems as just like a really really solid two guard who can defend and also hit the three, then I think that solves a lot of questions for the Warriors. But again, like the injury history concerns me, but I think you have that with Hield as well. But you went Hield,
Yeah,
so I'll just
I
go
think the
Melton.
height of Heald is going to be helpful, just because of the two-way aspect. But I think overall, if you include games played, it's going to be Heald.
How many threes do you think Kevon Looney will shoot this season?
God, he looked good. He looks still lengthy, very mobile. Um, I don't think he's going to get a chance to just get the ball anywhere near a 3-point line as much as we would think. It's great seeing workout videos with him, but I still think he's going to just maybe shoot it when he has a chance and be wide open, which is still going to be very rare. So I'm just going to say like 2.
2 shots, not 2 makes.
2 shots, 1 make.
1 for 2. All right, we'll add a wrinkle like that. I was gonna say 15, and I will say uh, he will be 6 for 15 on the year from three, which I'd be impressed with. Still, no doubt. I mean, that's the thing. Like all these guys can hit shots in practice when there's no one guarding them, but then like you put them in a game, it's just different, right? Um, and let me ask you, Wiggins. Will we see closer to 2022 Wiggins or closer to last season's Wiggins?
It's last season Wiggins, man. I mean, the guy's the only DNP. I mean, the guy's the only person out for being sick the last 2 games. It's just very strange. It's still going to happen. Whatever it is
Yeah,
that's affecting him is affecting him right now
I
still.
mean, but it was personal stuff with his father, right? Like that's. I mean, I don't know if that was everything, but uh, right, like you think his illness right now is just something, or is it an illness or an injury that has him out?
It's an illness. It's some sort of cold or something. But like, I mean, it's just when it rains, it pours, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't know if he has the sort of the grit mentality to have like a Jordan flu year for the rest of the year. It just seems like
yeah, yeah,
it just doesn't seem like it's there, like it's gone. I'd be very happy and surprised. But if he comes back anywhere near 2021, 2022, then that's like, I mean, that's going from a 7th seed to a 4 seed, right?
yeah. Well, I'll be the contrarian. I'll say he'll be closer to 2022. I'll say that.
Hey,
I'll say who's the optimist now? I'll uh, I'll say that maybe hopefully he can play freer. I know that sometimes when there's family stuff, it kind of weighs, and then there's a bit of a freeing relief when that kind of is no longer. Um, and someone you care about you don't have to see them like suffer and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that he kind of snaps out of it and whatnot. But last question, who do you think is getting traded? I mean, I know you'd have to come up with a combination. So maybe just say like, pick 2 guys who you think will be packaged and sent away.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna. I'll give you 2 buckets, right? It's gonna be one of the expiring guys between GP2 Moody and Kaminga, and it's gonna be one of the young guys we don't want to lose, which would be Pods or TJD. Like, I think it's gonna be someone that we don't mind losing, um, and then somebody that we want to keep. That's what I think it is.
So who's your pick?
Who would I want it to be?
Who do you want it to be, or do you think it's going to be? Based on looking at the roster and then seeing like how you think things might settle out towards the middle of the
I
season.
What I'm about to say is not reflective of me wanting Pods and Kaminga to go, but just saying that if it's going to be Pods and Kaminga, the player that's going to come back is going to be good. So that's my prediction. It's going to be somebody good that'll play for the next 3-4 years with Steph, but it means we're going to lose Pods and Kaminga.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that player is good. I mean, the Warriors would have to be really bad I think for them to cough that up middle of the season, both those guys. My my guess is they trade Moody and Peyton slash maybe Looney. If I had to pick like a an old dude or like one of the young guys and then one of the veteran dudes, but um, who knows? I
That
mean,
would assume that they're not. That would assume that they're good and that they don't mind losing some guys just to take an extra step up.
yeah,
In my scenario, yeah, they would be middle ground or middling.
yeah. I mean, this is like kind of almost a silly question because it's a question of who's available, right? The people that were rumored in the offseason, Markkanen can't be traded now. Jimmy Butler, like, are you willing to part with the guys you mentioned for Jimmy Butler? I'm not. Um, am I willing to part with Moody and even like Wiggins if I threw him in there? Then sure. So there's a lot of there's like a million what ifs. This is the most hypothetical of these questions because there's a lot
I
of
would love to
factors that
see
come into play.
Wiggins in Heat culture. That would be incredible.
I think he needs that, right? I think like the Warriors like chill, free flowing culture. It was good for him for a little bit until it wasn't. He needs heat culture, I suppose, as you said. I think I'm assuming the Warriors won't be terrible, terrible. Like we talked about this, right? Like, oh, is their roster actually pretty good? And I mean, we'll see. I mean, on paper, they could be pretty decent, but like, where do they pop? Is the question because is there going to be a second scoring option that's worth it available midseason? I can't say no, but I also can't say definitely for sure, unless I'm forgetting somebody. But I'm a little under the weather, so my mind is shot.
What you can do is basically go to Tankathon and then look at the actual teams that'll be tanking, because this is one of those years, obviously, where you want to be the actual number one pick, not necessarily top five or whatever. So, I mean, right now it's projected to be Brooklyn, Washington, Detroit, Utah, and Charlotte. So,
Yeah,
anybody you want from there, Portland.
Brooklyn, Portland, Charlotte. Not really, not really. Like they're not going to give Portland's not going to give us Shaden Sharp, and I don't really necessarily want him more than Kuminga. Uh, People, Simons is basically a better Jordan Poole, and what would it take to get him? Um, like I don't know. I just don't necessarily see anybody like, oh yeah, that Steph and Draymond be like, yeah, give me this like, 25-year-old kid, and we're good. You know what I mean? Uh, I think they're looking for somebody who can score and who's at least somewhat of a veteran and somewhat reliable. And I just don't know who that is right
It's
now.
going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement. This is one of those years where everybody at the top is very excited for the championship. Everybody at the middle is very excited for the NBA in-season tournament, I'm sure, and everybody at the bottom is excited to get Cooper Flag. This is what the NBA wants. So we'll see.
Where should Warriors fans be?
Anywhere along those three spectrums, really. Who knows?
Because I don't think anyone's excited about the in-season tournament.
You're not booking a flight to Vegas for
But
the insert season championship?
no.
You might happen to be there.
Yeah,
You
if I
never
happen to
know.
be there, then sure. But then I'll also happen to be able to watch it on TV if I care. I mean, if the Warriors are in it, then I'll watch. If they're not, then I'm just like shoulder shrug maybe. Any other? Did you have any other random predictions?
This is the one. This is the prediction that I think would be hilarious if it comes up, which is the LA Clippers. Their unprotected first pick would go to the Oklahoma City
God.
Thunder with a trade swap this year. And so we all don't think the Clipper is going to be good this year. And so if they get the number one pick, just to see it swapped with OKC, and if OKC gets Cooper Flag, then we are all done for the next decade.
What if San Antonio gets him?
We'll be done for the next 2 decades then. I mean, I think that would be hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, so is the prediction like who gets Cooper Flag, or like if OKC? That's your prediction. OKC is going to get him.
No, I just that my yeah. Let's just say that. Yeah, my prediction is OKC is going to get Cooper Flag or Utah.
OKC or Utah gets Cooper Flag. Okay, writing this down. Let's just real quick. I know we're running a little bit over, but like, where do you think the Warriors end up? Some just basic predictions. Where do you think they end up in the rankings at the end of the season?
I think they're going to be just right outside the play-in, assuming that Draymond does not have any suspensions at the 6. I think they're a 6 seed. I don't think the Timberwolves got better this year, and I think Denver is beatable nowadays. I don't believe in Dallas. I know everybody does, but like it just seems kind of, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of parts that don't sort of mix well to me personally. And I don't think Phoenix is going to last with the age that's at the top. And I still don't believe in Memphis. Like I can't imagine Ja Morant suddenly being a Saint this year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I don't think Sacramento's real. I mean, I in some ways I think the West might have been better the last few years than it is this year. Is that a bold prediction?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say 6th as well because that's where they could have ended up. They were what three games out of that. Technically, yeah. I don't know if they would have lost the tiebreaker. But man, not looking at the teams and the standings, I would say, man, I think you stole my number. I would say 6. So I'm trying to pick either 5th or 7th. And I'm like, that's a big difference. That's a big difference picking 5th or 7th.
It's huge. Yeah.
So just because I'm Mr. Optimist, I will pick 5th because I believe that
it's fine to agree with me. You can just agree with me.
I will say 5th, where my heart says 6th.
And your true Warriors fandom from the 80s says 7th.
Yes, as everybody gets traded for Gugliotta. Cool, man. Any other final thoughts?
One thing I would want to say is I would really love for you and me to go to a Santa Cruz Warriors game, either this year or next year. I'm at the old man stage of my basketballdom where it's just a trek for me to go to a stadium with like 20,000 people. So I think you'd really enjoy seeing Quentin Post shoot 15 threes against Iowa or Ontario or whoever it is that they're going to play against. So please come up.
I'll figure out a way to get to one of those. Well, thank you again for coming on and making these bold predictions. And we will see how these end up by the end of the season and who was more pessimistic or optimistic at the end of the day.